Hey there friends, Charl here from worshipguitarskills.com, back again with another video. Now over the years I've noticed a bunch of worship guitarists make the same mistakes over and over that really holds them back from reaching their full potential on the guitar. Now I know this firsthand because I used to make these same mistakes, but once I recognized them and corrected them, my role as a guitarist in a modern worship band was forever changed. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing these common mistakes that worship guitarists make. I'm going to show you how you can avoid them so you can become an indispensable member of your worship team. Let's get right into it. Alright, so let's dig in and get started with understanding the role of a worship guitarist in a modern worship setting. Firstly, you just need to be very clear on the importance of supporting the worship leader. Now, they are the person in front singing the lyrics and ultimately leading the congregation. Now, yes, while everyone on stage should be leading worship, the worship leader's primary function is to connect and lead the congregation. And that's why as worship musicians, and specifically guitarists, we need to help them perform that task and support them through that. Now, the way that we do this is by really creating a musical environment that draws people in to the worship experience so that they can connect with God. So as a church, we can all magnify God, celebrate His character, and really rejoice His plan for redemption. So when you keep that end goal in mind, it makes a really big difference in how you approach your guitar playing. Now from there, I'd like to talk about balancing rhythm and lead guitar. So on a more practical note, if you're the only guitar player in your worship team, which is probably the case for the majority of you watching, then you need to really know how to balance both rhythm and lead guitar. Now it's really important to remember the fact that the guitar is both a harmonic as well as a melodic instrument, and it's important for you to know when to play rhythm and when to play lead. You know, think about this. If you play lead all the time, it can get pretty distracting and you really miss out on that harmonic contribution that you can make as a guitarist. However, on the flip side, if you always play chords the whole time and never do anything melodic, you're going to be missing out on that opportunity to create some cool melodic hooks that can really elevate a song. And when done right at the right time, that can make a very, very big difference. Now, one thing that I can share with you that will help you to make that decision around when to play rhythm and when to play lead is just really understanding how the guitar can complement other instruments and vocalists. So what you want to do there is you want to make sure that whatever you're playing, whether it's rhythm or whether it's lead, that you're adding some value from a harmonic and a melodic perspective, and that you're not really causing chaos or dissonance by not being connected with the rest of the band. Part of that really is connected by understanding the frequential range that the guitar takes up within the whole mix, and then really picking your parts accordingly so that it will enhance the overall sound of the worship band. Now you can talk to your worship leader or a music director if you have one, or the sound guy, and get them to give you some feedback and some tips on your specific playing. That way you can kind of see what your parts sound like. You can get feedback from that. You can get feedback on your tone, and you can see where you can make some tweaks and changes in order to really choose parts that's going to fit in with the rest of the musicians, that's not going to clash with the vocals, and it's going to work from a frequency perspective so that the sound guy can go ahead and bring your volume up in the mix because it's the right frequency with the right tone, adding a ton of value. Now, talking about value and how you can improve the value of your playing is really understanding dynamics and volume control. Now, this is really key because you need to know when to play softly or when you want to really kind of dig in and get some more intensity in your playing. You want to think of this as a conversation. You know, when you're talking to somebody, there are certain times you get excited, it's got a certain rhythm and a pace to it. Or when you talk about something more serious, it's going to have a different emotional tone. So think about that. In terms of the conversation, it's not always what you say, but it's how you say it that really contributes to the effectiveness of your communication in a real world conversation. Now, this is kind of the same on the guitar. It's not always what you play, but how you play it. So it really helps to get a good understanding of your ability to learn to listen and respond to the worship leader, to your bandmates, and of course, most importantly, the Holy Spirit. So listen to what's going on around you, pay attention to everything that's happening musically, and then from there, go ahead and adapt your dynamics and your volume control accordingly, because that will make a big impact in your guitar parts. Hey, a real quick ad break for this video. If you enjoy this type of teaching and you're looking for a longer form lesson in and around this concept of modern worship guitar playing, go ahead and check out thatworshipguitarshow.com. Almost every week we have hour-long episodes where I address questions from our viewers, and we do in-depth teaching on various different topics and techniques. So go ahead and check out thatworshipguitarshow.com if you are looking for more lessons like this. All right, enjoy the rest of your video. Now, talking about conversation and communication, communication is really key when it comes to working with the worship leader and the team. That's really non-negotiable. You know, no one wants to play with a musician on stage who ignores everyone else and kind of just exists there in their own bubble while they are being on stage. What you want to do is you want to pay attention to what's going on around you. Look for cues and directions from the worship leader or even the MD if you have one. And when you learn how to use and respond to what's known as non-verbal communication with the other musicians on stage, it's really going to help you to be prepared and to be adaptable during rehearsals and live worship. That's why it's important to know your stuff so well that you can be flexible to adapt and respond in the moment. Now, of course, it's important to realize that in church, we are working with volunteers a lot of the time. So we can't always expect a certain level of excellence that someone, who's doing music full time, but at the same time, we don't want to let that lower the standard. We still want to push for excellence, but we don't want to do that at the expense of relational harmony. So that goes two ways. As a person, you want to go ahead and put in the time and effort in order to improve your playing, to know your parts, and to look at what's happening around you so that you can respond accordingly. And at the same time, you want to have grace for others as they too are on their journey and really working as it relates to improving their own playing and their own ability to be flexible and to listen and respond in the moment. Now, lastly, I want to talk about cultivating your musicianship. That is a journey that never ends. No matter how long you've been playing, you'll always be developing your worship guitar skills, not just your guitar skills, but your skill as a worshiper, and ultimately on the guitar, learning how to kind of unlock your unique style, and through that, learning how to unleash your unique sound. That is a process that never ends, and you're always going to be improving. Now, I've heard this said that a lot of people look at worship and they say it's very basic musically, and it's just 4 chords and it's boring and all that kind of stuff. And you know what, for that, there's a bunch of things to say in and around that. First of all, if you just purely look at music, it's not the chords that's the issue, that it's just 4 chords in a song. Because if you look at the blues as a genre, that's only 3 chords for the most part when you look at a 12-bar blues. So it's not the number of chords within the progressions, it's your ability to interpret those chords and to do what you want to do. So if you look at and listen to a guitarist like, say, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Derek Trucks or any of these kind of blues masters, no one will say that that is boring. Now, I do understand it's a very different genre than the modern worship genre. I'm just mentioning this so that you look at modern worship through the right lens. Even though we just have 4 chords, there's so many amazing things that you can do within that moment musically to add value to what's going on in the song, and then also spiritually and from a worship perspective, do things that will really draw the other musicians into the worship experience, draw the congregation into the worship experience, and really supporting your worship leader. Having said that, it's also important not to kind of stay stuck in the worship genre as a bubble, because God created all things, so there's other styles, there's other things that are there for you to explore, and looking at different styles, different techniques, and using those things to enhance your playing. You see, one of the worst things that you can do as a guitarist, and as it relates to cultivating your musicianship and your sound, is to kind of be a copycat. You don't want to copy other guitarists note for note and just be a copycat in that sense. You want to go ahead and bring your own influence, your own style, and your own interpretation to the mix when it comes to playing. Just think of the pastors preaching. If your pastor went and learned another pastor's sermon word for word, the way that they phrase stuff, the jokes that they told, the stories that they told, and it's all word for word replica of that, that just wouldn't be great, because there's no authenticity within that delivery and within sharing that message. Now, as a guitarist, in order for you to do that, ask yourself, what kind of music do you like? What other styles do you like? How can you incorporate some of that into your playing? And I know for me, when it comes to the things that I grew up listening to, the styles that I enjoyed, the kind of techniques I liked to employ in my playing, I use all of that on a Sunday, and I try and just be me in that moment, because that to me is a true and authentic expression as a worship guitarist. At the same time, I have to remember my role as a guitarist, so I'm not going to go there and have a shred fest on stage, because that's not what it's about. But somewhere in the middle, there's a balance where you can find your own unique voice and really release that on a Sunday. Now, a great way for you to improve this is to really get feedback from others. Be open and be receptive to feedback, and be willing to learn from other people in the worship team. Now, it's been said that a teachable attitude and humility really goes a long way. In fact, it kind of goes all the way. So you can't go wrong when you have that teachable attitude and humility and that continuous desire to improve as a player. Now, if you want to get practical, go ahead and check out this video that will show you the 10 essential chords every worship guitarist should know. Have fun, check out that video, and I'll see you there in just a few seconds.